This is something that happened when I was in high school. For some background, I was a 17-year-old girl at the time and a junior. The high school that I went to was fairly average in my opinion. I had a good amount of friends, and during the time of this story was single. So, on Valentine's Day, I got back to my locker after one of my classes and saw that there was a heart taped to it. It was like a red piece of paper in the shape of a heart, and it was folded in half like a valentine. When I saw it, it was a big surprise. I really didn't know who it was from. I thought maybe one of my girlfriends had done it and gave it to a few of us in the friend group, or maybe one of the guys that I was friends with, hopefully one that I thought was cute. So I picked up the card and read it. It said, "Meet me at the clearing by the soccer fields after school." And that was it. It didn't say who it was from or anything. It seemed like maybe I had a secret admirer. The location that the card mentioned was a well-known spot among students at the high school. Directly behind the school was the sports fields. There was the football field, football practice fields, and tennis courts. Behind that was the baseball field and then a large woods that went kind of next to it and past it. There was a path going through the woods that led to the soccer fields. In the middle of the path was this clearing. It was a clearing in the woods that was kind of secluded, and I was talking with my friends for the rest of the school day wondering who it was who had left this note for me. They all said they had no idea. I was sort of nervous because what if it was somebody who I didn't know at all? When the school day ended, I did what the card said. I walked by myself to the clearing in the woods. There was nobody else around at all when I got there, as none of the sports that practiced outside were in season. When I got there, no one else was around, so I stood there and waited. Pretty quickly, I heard the trees moving, and I looked over and saw someone coming out of the woods. This was strange. There was a guy there, who looked around my age, but I didn't know him or recognize him. I was confused. He said hi, and I said hi back. He asked me if I got his card, and I said, "Yes, thank you, that was very nice." Then he said that I was his Valentine and that he had his eyes on me for a while. This was kind of creeping me out because I literally had no idea who he was. I was sure that I had never had a class with him before either. Then he asked me if I was ready to go, and I said, "Where?" He said that it was a surprise. I said, "Actually, I have to be getting home right now." I didn't want to go somewhere with him. I got a bad vibe from this situation. Obviously, this was kind of creepy, and the way that he just walked out of the woods was really strange, and I didn't get the sense that this was just a kid who meant well but was awkward or something like that. The guy then said that I could not leave. When he said this, I just remembered that his voice shifted to anger. I told him sorry, but I really had to go. He started walking over to me. I turned and began walking away. He then grabbed my arm and stopped me. I asked him who he even was. He said that he went to school with me and said that he saw me every day. I told him I don't think I've ever had a class with you. He admitted we never did, but he said that he knew where my locker was and he saw me all the time in the hallways. I told him that I didn't even know his name, and before I went anywhere with him, I would need to know more about him. I'm not sure if he thought better of things in that moment, but he seemed to calm down and he let go of me. Then I walked away through the woods, but when I did, he walked after me and asked where I was going. I told him that I was going home, and he asked if we could hang out later, and I said no, I could not. I told him thanks for the card, but I was going to decline. He said nothing, but then just stood there. I felt kind of bad, but also he was creeping me out. So at that point, I walked away and went home. But that wasn't the end of it. That very same night, I was at home, and it was pretty late, like 10 o'clock or something, I remember. I was in my bedroom when suddenly I heard a knock on the window behind me. My room was on the first floor, and so it was at ground level. I looked back and saw the same guy right there. It was crazy. I ran over and covered the window. Then I left my room and I found my dad and told him about the guy. My dad went outside at that point. When he got there, the kid was running away down the street and he got away. After that, only like 20 minutes later, someone requested me on Snapchat. It was the same guy, but I hadn't known his name to that point. I responded to him only to tell him to leave me alone or I was calling the cops, but he started cursing at me, calling me names and things like that. He was clearly angry that I had rejected him. But coming to my house at night and going to my window was messed up. I blocked him there, and my parents said that they were going to report him to the school. That's exactly what happened, and he ended up getting in trouble. In fact, I heard it wasn't his first time doing something like this. I never saw him again after that either. I think he got expelled. But I really had never seen him ever. The hallways at school would always get pretty crowded, but I hadn't noticed. That was the craziest Valentine's Day I've ever had. This happened last Valentine's Day. I was on a date with my girlfriend. With it being Valentine's, we went to a restaurant that was pretty nice. The whole night was planned. We were going out to eat, and then we were going to go back to my apartment and watch a movie. After getting to the restaurant where we had reservations, we were seated at a table by the wall. I was sitting against the wall facing the rest of the place, and my girlfriend was facing me. I could see that the restaurant was pretty crowded on this night. Soon we ordered, and things were going well. Almost an hour in, after we had been there for a while and were almost done, the waiter came over to our table. He had a bottle of wine, which we did not order, and he put it on the table. He said that the man on the other side of the restaurant had ordered it for us. He indicated which person it was. I looked over, and there was a man who was sitting up against another wall by himself in a booth. He looked sort of mysterious for some reason. The guy was all alone, did not have any food but just what appeared to be a drink. He wore a dark jacket and looked over at me when I saw him. I gave him a small wave to say thanks, but the guy didn't do anything. He just looked back down and then took a drink. We said thanks and took the wine, but we only had a little bit. I'm not a huge drinker, and I had to drive home as well. So we were obviously wondering why the guy had ordered us the wine. We didn't know him at all. Maybe he just wanted to be nice, but why us? There were a lot of other people there. The next time our waiter came back, I wanted to return the favor, so I told him to give the guy a Budweiser from me. My girlfriend and I talked for a while, and we ended up staying longer than anticipated, because we probably stayed another 20 minutes. We just got carried away in our conversation and were having a good time. In that time, I didn't look over at the man much, but when I did, he was still there, just looking down and drinking by himself. I figured that when we left, I would go over and say thanks to him in person. Perhaps he was a lonely guy out on Valentine's Day, or maybe he was divorced or something. So after we paid and whatnot, we got up to leave. However, as soon as we stood up, I saw the man stand up and instantly walk out of the restaurant. There was no chance for me to talk to him because he was sitting closer to the doors than we were, so he was able to leave way before us. We just left after that, and I didn't see the guy out in the parking lot or anything. That is, until we got to the car. After getting inside, I was getting ready to drive away when I looked in the mirror and I noticed the man. We were parked on the end of the parking lot next to the grass, and the man was parked in a row behind us and a spot to the left, but his car was backed into the space. So in my mirror, I saw the man sitting in his car and it was still parked. I didn't leave yet and pointed him out to my girlfriend. We were still wondering what he was doing. Like I said, the guy just seemed kind of mysterious and even borderline suspicious. But he had done a nice thing for us by getting us a bottle of wine, so I was not trying to think anything bad about him. We sat there in the parking lot for a couple more minutes before leaving because my girlfriend had the idea to stop at a gas station or store. I was still kind of hungry, to be honest, because that fancy restaurant didn't give a good amount of food. But we also wanted to get movie snacks for when we got home, so I was looking for a moment to see what was on the way. In that whole time, the man did not leave, but just sat in his car. Then finally, I backed up and left. As soon as I did that, that same instant, I saw the man pull out of the parking space in his car and leave behind us. Right away, I was wondering if that was a coincidence or if he was following us. We drove onto the road, and the man remained behind us. Road after road, for the first 3 turns, he was still there. By now, we were really wondering what he was doing. First he buys us a bottle of wine, now he follows us home, and not a word from the man the entire night. After about 10 minutes of driving, he was still there. Soon I pulled off the road and took another exit to go to a gas station. I parked there, and there were a few other people there, making it feel safe. After parking, the man entered the parking lot in his car, but he did not park next to us. Instead, he parked his car on the other side. I walked into the gas station, and the man stayed inside his car. My girlfriend stayed in my car as well. After being inside the store for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, I left to go back to the car. The man hadn't left his vehicle the entire time, so I decided to confront him. There were other people around, so I didn't think he would try anything. I left my car and walked over to his. He was still sitting inside it. I went over and knocked on his driver's window. He was sitting in there looking straight ahead, not even looking at me. When I knocked, he completely ignored it. I knocked louder and then waved my hands in front of his face in front of his driver's window. The man did not even look at me. He didn't acknowledge me at all. He did nothing. I shouted at him asking why he was following me. He still didn't even look. He just kept sitting there, stone cold. I was fed up. I walked away back to my car, got inside, and told my girlfriend about the crazy encounter. Then we left. And when I did, the man left too. By now I was angry and confused. After getting back on the road, I instantly pulled over. The man did as well. We both just sat there. Then, after like 30 seconds, surprisingly, he pulled back onto the road and drove away, passing me by. I was amazed that he was gone, but also glad. Then we drove the rest of the way home, and I didn't see the guy at all after that. We had a normal rest of the night, but I obviously was wondering about that guy for a while, and I still am. Why was he being so weird? And why did he just ignore me like that? It makes no sense, but I guess he didn't cause any harm, so that's good. A crazy thing happened many years ago when I was working at a restaurant. It was a fairly average sit-down restaurant, nothing too fancy, but not bad either. I worked as a waitress for about a year there before moving to another place. So one night I found myself working on Valentine's Day. It was nighttime and we were pretty busy. A few hours in and things started to quiet down just a little bit. One of my tables was a man and woman sitting in this sort of corner table by where the wall juts out. I just remember that the woman was sitting right in the corner and the man was sitting kind of next to her. Things started out normal with them as anybody else. They ordered whatever to drink and then later they ordered food and stuff. But I remember that when they ordered, the man was ordering for the woman and he was holding her menu and stuff. She didn't talk much and seemed sort of nervous, but I thought maybe she was just shy. But I had a lot of other people to serve, so I didn't give it too much thought. As the night went on, I went back to their table a few times and nothing really was too weird. At one point, I was in the kitchen for a moment right on the other side of the doors. I wasn't actually in the kitchen, but there was sort of a hallway right before it. This was right off the hallway where the restrooms were and right before them. As I was right inside the door, it suddenly opened and I saw the woman. She quickly went up to me and said that I had to help her. She said the guy she was with was threatening her and he was trying to kidnap her and stuff. She was talking fast and seemed panicked, and I told her to take a deep breath and slow down. She then said that she had to go back now or else he would come looking for her. Apparently she told him that she was going to the restroom and instead went to me in the kitchen. So then she left and walked away. I realized that the woman was in trouble, and that might explain why she was sitting so far in the corner and acting nervous. The setup was almost like the man had her trapped in. So I called the cops based on the information that the woman told me and relayed the information to them. After that, I told my manager and informed her of the situation. The police said that they would be there shortly and to try to make sure that they didn't leave. A couple of minutes later, I went back out there just to see if they were still there. They were, and I remember that I asked them if I could get them anything else, and the man said the bill. He said it fast, like he was in a hurry to go. The air suddenly seemed tense. I tried to lighten the mood and asked if they were celebrating Valentine's Day. The man said yes, and added that they were married. The woman said nothing at all. I said congratulations, and I would be back in a moment with the bill. So I tried to stall with that. I went back and took my time, but really I was just waiting for the cops. However, I was only back there for like a minute or two when suddenly the man and woman came back and found me again. The guy kind of had his arm around her. He asked me what was taking so long and said that they were in a hurry to leave. I made up an excuse that the machine was being weird, and I told him I would hurry and hope to get back with them in a couple minutes. The guy said okay and just walked away with the woman. I thought I had done a good thing. But then like a minute later, I went to see if they were still there, and they were not. There was some cash left on the table, and both the man and woman were just gone. And literally right after that, the cops arrived. I told them everything I could, and there was an investigation. They started looking at security cameras in the back and stuff. Eventually, after like an hour or two, they found the man and woman. The man was arrested, and it turned out to be a crazy story. The woman had met the guy online, I think, and she went on a date with him, but he turned out to be crazy. When she said she didn't want to see him again, he didn't take no for an answer. The man then found her and forced her into his car, claiming he had a weapon. He then proceeded to make her give him another chance at a date and took her to our restaurant. I think he must have been insane or something. Then they left and he was trying to drive to another state or something like that. I don't remember all the details, but it was wild. That was definitely the craziest thing that ever happened when I worked there. This happened years ago when I was younger. I was in high school and lived with my parents. My routine back then was to get up, ride the bus to school, and after school ride the bus home. My high school was fairly large with a lot of other kids. One day after school I remember that it was Valentine's Day, and I got home from school just like any other day. I went to my bedroom and was just hanging out there playing video games like usual. Not too long after arriving back though, I got a notification that someone added me on Snapchat. I looked and it was some girl named Justine. I did not know anybody by that name, but thought that maybe she went to my school or something. I added her back and she sent me a chat almost immediately. She said hi and I said hi, and then she asked me if I could be her Valentine. I did not have any idea who she was. I said, "No, who are you?" Her response really gave me the creeps. She said that sometimes she watches me walk home from school. Now, I obviously had not noticed anybody watching me walk home from school, or I would have reported it. but when the bus would drop me off, I would have to walk a couple of minutes through our neighborhood to get home. And it was a decent-sized neighborhood with lots of other houses and trees and stuff. So it was possible, but I really didn't know. I asked why she watched me walk home and if she went to my school. She said that she wanted to go out with me, completely ignoring the question. I said once more that I had no idea who she was, and I asked her to show herself. She did not. Instead, she said that she was going to come over. I responded and said, "No, don't come over." But she didn't open it, and I was left undelivered. I was so weirded out by this and wondered if I was being pranked or something. About 20 minutes later, I saw that she sent me a Snapchat picture. I opened it, and it was a picture of my house taken from the street. She said, "Come outside." This made me really nervous. I got up and ran out of my bedroom and went to look out a front window. When I did, I saw no one. I asked how she knew where I lived. She said, "I told you I watch you walk home." I asked where she was. A short time later, she responded and said, "Why didn't you come outside?" I was fed up with the whole situation and I blocked her. Then I just hoped that that would be it. That night though, I was woken up in the middle of the night to the sound of someone knocking on my bedroom window. It was consistent and not stopping. I remembered everything about the weird girl and I quickly sat up and looked over to the window. It was covered so I couldn't see anything. I went over and turned on my light. The knocking then stopped and I sort of heard someone running away. I couldn't tell who it was though. I ran out of my room and woke my parents. We ended up calling the cops. Whoever had done it was long gone though by the time the police got there. I told them about the girl on Snapchat and stuff. After that though, the person was never found and I had blocked the account. Nothing else like that happened anymore. When I would walk home from the bus, I would look around, but I never saw anyone. To this day, I don't know who that was. I'm not sure if it was a joke or a prank or someone trying to be creepy, but it's something that still creeps me out to look back on. This happened on Valentine's Day a few years ago. I'm married and went on a date with my husband that evening. We went to a nice restaurant, which is what we do most years. On this particular time, we got to the restaurant, which was located outside of the city. It was in a little quieter of an area, but the restaurant was fairly busy. My husband and I got a booth in the restaurant that was a nice one. It was up against a window and on one end. At one point, sometime during dinner, out of nowhere, I heard a knock on the window right next to me, to my left. It was coming from the other side, which was outside of the restaurant. Now, it was hard to see out the windows because it was nighttime and the windows were tinted. Not super tinted, but enough so that at night you had to kind of look close to see stuff. When I did, I saw somebody right there on the other side, which would be in the parking lot. It was a man there, and he knocked again on the window and started banging on it harder now. He didn't say anything or wave or anything, he just banged on the window. Some other people sitting close by started to look over, wondering what the noise was about and what was going on. Then the man turned and literally ran away. After he was gone, my husband and I laughed about it, and I thought that it was funny. Because it was kind of funny how a random guy just comes up and bangs on the window and then runs off. We figured that he was gone for good, and we continued on. It was kind of weird because of the location of the restaurant, though. It wasn't in a place where people would just be walking by. Like it wasn't downtown or in a spot that had other businesses or whatever in walking distance. This place was kind of out there in this particular spot, and you usually had to drive to get there. I thought maybe the guy had been in the restaurant and had too much to drink and was leaving, or possibly something like that. But anyways, for the rest of the time that we were there in the restaurant, he did not return. Soon after, we left. After we walked out the restaurant, we went to the parking lot to our car. Before we left, we were inside the car, and out of nowhere, to my window on the front passenger side, I heard something. It was the sound of someone running up outside. Then the same man got right outside of my window, and he started banging on it again. The guy was back, and he was now at our car. I quickly locked my door. Right after, the guy tried to open it. But then he went right back to banging on the window. This was no longer that funny. We yelled at him to go away. He said nothing and just kept banging on the window. After like a minute of that, he ran off, and I thought that he was leaving, but instead he went directly right behind our car, giving us no chance to drive away. Then he started to bang loudly on the rear window. He paused for a moment and then hit it really hard, and the window was smashed. The glass broke, and after that the man ran off into the night. We stayed there and called the cops. The man had run away though. After the police got there, they looked around for the guy, and he ended up being found a short distance away walking on the side of the road. The man denied everything, but obviously he had done it. He had been banging on the windows with his hands, but I think he took something like a rock out and banged on the back window to break it. That was a scary situation, and I'm really glad that he was caught.